A NFL player has just went down for the Buffalo Bills, and because we live in a world full of misinformation, the people who spread misinformation are spreading misinformation at a rapid rate and trying to grow a new conspiracy. Well, it's not even new at this point. They've been doing it for a while, but let's go ahead and get into the article. Damar Hamlin, who plays safety for the NFL's Buffalo Bills, received CPR and was carted off the field in an ambulance on Monday night after collapsing to the ground following a tackle against Cincinnati Bengals receiver T. Higgins. The hit came in the first quarter of the game in Cincinnati. Fairly straightforward. This was a collapse that did not involve contact. He made the tackle. He was hit in the chest, got up, and then he collapsed to the ground. Skip Bayless, because he has to mathematically and scientifically come up with the worst takes ever, says, no doubt the NFL is considering postponing the rest of this game. But how? This late in the season, a game of this magnitude is crucial to the regular season outcome, which suddenly seems so irrelevant. Now, obviously, worded in the worst way possible. I don't know how Skip Bayless does it actually, but then he tries to come back after he was getting a bunch of backlash to say nothing is more important than that young man's health. That was the point of my last tweet. I'm sorry if that was misunderstood, but his health is all that matters. Again, everything else is irrelevant. I pray for him and will continue to. Now, people really didn't like it, but takes that I'm about to show you now are infinitely worse. Conservatives have wasted no time coming up with the worst takes they possibly could to spread their misinformation. So we have the usual suspect, Charles Kirkland Jr., as I like to call him. This is a tragic and all too familiar sight right now. Athletes dropping suddenly. That's one of them. Then we come over here to Joey Gilbert. There have been too many recent died suddenly cases to deny it anymore. This is not normal. Here's Lauren. Breaking. Bill safety Damar Hamlin was taken off the field in an ambulance after collapsing mid-game. Prior to 2021, athletes collapsing on the field was not a normal event. This is becoming undeniable and extremely concerning. Breaking once more, Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin collapses on the field after making a tackle live on Monday Night Football. National broadcast Stu Peters. It appears Hamlin may have died suddenly. He was 24 years old. All of these conservatives are talking about this, what I can only imagine, really terrible documentary that is naturally, because it's conservative and also because it is on Rumble, because it probably couldn't be uploaded anywhere else, is an anti-vaccine documentary, which probably spreads a bunch of misinformation. Now, we do have a doctor's input on it already. Brian Sutterer, he is an MD, so I want to show you his take on it. Somebody who actually knows what they're talking about versus random idiot conservatives on the internet who get paid to spread misinformation.
What we saw happen tonight is not related to any sort of vaccines. This is almost certainly something called commotio cordis, an extremely rare condition that's one of those things that we typically only think we're going to read about in textbooks. Essentially, what can happen is if you have a blunt trauma to the chest that occurs at exactly the right time in the cardiac electrical cycle, your heart can be sent into cardiac arrest. As Hamlin comes in here, we can see this square hit to the front of his chest. We see him get back up momentarily before ultimately collapsing back down to the ground and requiring CPR on the field. This is a tracing of our heart's electrical activity. Basically, this is one cycle of the heart squeezing. Starts off with this P wave, which is the electrical activity of the atrium at the top of the heart squeezing, then the QRS complex, which is going to be the ventricles acting, but then the last phase is this T wave, where the ventricle basically depolarizes and kind of resets to get ready for the next cycle. For commotio cordis to happen, you have to suffer this blunt trauma to the chest at exactly the right moment, specifically on this upstroke of the T wave.
All right, so you guys kind of have an idea what actually happened. So this is not COVID related. Now, in terms of the COVID-19 vaccine, we already know that it does help you, but conservatives don't really care about it. So I imagine if you're watching this video, your mind is already made up about the vaccine. You are either privy to scientific research, or you are just choosing to ignore it because you're stupid. Here we have some more insights just to show you a point in case here. COVID death rates are higher among Republicans than Democrats, mounting evidence shows. Average excess death rates in Florida and Ohio were 76% higher among Republicans than Democrats from March 2020 to December 2021, according to a working paper released last month by the National Bureau of Economic Research. Excess death rates refers to deaths above what would be anticipated based on historical trends. A study in June published in Health Affairs found that counties with a Republican majority had a greater share of COVID deaths through October 2021 relative to majority Democratic counties. I keep saying countries, counties. And people are going to probably say, well, how come I read a study that shows people with vaccines are dying more now? Well, it's 2023 now. Here is a brief quote that I pulled from 2021. Well, over 90% of adult population is double vaccinated. So the vaccinated cohort is over 9 times the size of the unvaccinated cohort. A very small percentage of a large population is still more people than a higher percentage of a very small one. So this should be very simple to understand. But of course, conservatives, all these anti-vaccine morons who get paid to spew this garbage, which ends up actually killing people, because unfortunately, people do listen to people like Charles Kirkland Jr. when they really should not. And it is unfortunate because people do die. Here we have it. Conservatives, they never miss an opportunity to spread misinformation.